Sequels and let alone prequels toe a fine line of quality from their original source. Some stepped up and surpassed its predecessor. Some create a mediocre but enjoyable experience that fills some time. And some cash grabs that have no right existing except to milk an already established IP. However, it's not often that a film can stand on its own while keeping elements and themes from the first work, but to be something you don't need to watch any of the other films to understand, follow, or enjoy, especially making one animated in a style that would make you think this was a cash grab, considering Train to Busan was the most profitable horror movie from South Korea at the time. But its narrative, story, action scenes, and overall experience is one that is a solid zombie movie. It's not exceptional in any way, but it does stand on its own, not to the same degree, mind you, but absolutely blows the horrible sequel Peninsula out of the water. So, what is it exactly this movie portrayed by using the zombie genre to its fullest advantage? And why is it the subject of today's video, as we are discussing the prequel better than the sequel, Seoul Station, Escaping Your Past in a Zombie Apocalypse. The film opens up with an elderly man covered in blood and clenching his neck as random citizens just ignore his sickly state. Ironically, with a young man discussing how their country needs universal health care before noticing the geriatric bleeding out. When he goes to help him, he stops dead in his tracks after noting that this guy has a putrid smell and shrugs him off with his friend because the guy is homeless. Universal ain't too universal anymore when it's actually in your face. Discussed in my Train to Busan video, South Korean culture largely turns a blind eye to others going about their everyday business, accentuated here by the fact that he is in great pain and soaked in blood, but just sits down like nothing is the matter because he can't seek medical services because he can't afford it, as he goes to sit with other homeless people in the subways while busy people ignore them completely. Other homeless people and their situations are shown briefly, while a woman attempts to sell her body for $3 and another man that worked construction prides himself on having worked on most of the buildings in Seoul but still lives in the streets. Even a poor child can drolfully vroom his toy car having nothing else in the world. A man then grabs a pile of cigarette ashes and acts as if he has a grenade in order to intimidate a businessman that apparently had wronged him, but everyone there simply brushes him off like he was trash, literally being shooed away by a custodian with a broom, not being taken seriously even when acting like he is about to commit an act of terrorism. The simple man goes to the subway and finds his friend, the elderly man, hardly breathing and covered in blood. Panicked, he goes to find help at a nearby homeless shelter that's at full capacity. When the care worker tells current residents that they need to leave in order to make room for this person, the homeless men in that room intimidate our simple friend and force him to leave and not return. Homeless fighting amongst themselves just to have a place to live, to be comfortable, to be cared for, even at the expense of someone that is said to be dying. While the homeless plight and patient zero are going on, we also have the main character of the movie, Hyo-sun, waking up to an empty apartment and her boyfriend nowhere to be found, getting the third degree from her landlord for not paying that month's rent. She then goes to find him at a cyber cafe and discovers that he is trying to pimp her out online with unsolicited pictures of her asleep, all so that he can make the rent for them, telling her that she doesn't have to have sex with them but can just steal from them while they are showering, not really caring for her well-being. He defends his lifestyle of gaming all day and not working, and telling her that she has to be a hoe or else they will end up homeless, threatening her with the idea and propositioning how being a whore is preferable to being homeless, and how his comfortable life should not be phased if she can do something against her will for more money. He then goes over how he intends for it to work, that he is going to solicit her for sex. Then he slaps her, degrading her, berating her for thinking her body is too good for that line of work, reminding telling her that he rescued her from the brothel and got her off the streets to give her love and a home, only to walk away from her when she wouldn't become an Uber Eats OnlyFans crossover just to pay his bills. Peak incel behavior. Alone, again, she cries to herself, ashamed of where she is, pleading for forgiveness from her father. At the same time, a man named Suk-kyu across town gets a call about Hye-sun selling herself online and becomes immediately alarmed. Time is running out as the simple man can only watch as his old friend dies. He tries to find aid in a train station worker who only brushes him off to go to a hospital, an option out of the question for his kind. Even other homeless people see him and don't pay him any mind since he is not from their district. A general store owner holds off on closing up shop to get him some painkillers with what little money he has, every cent to his name to save a life and get a drink. But it's really all for naught as he gets back to see the elderly man has already passed away, his veins darkened and rooting up under his skin in a horrific way. The simple man bellows out in agony as he rushes to the hospital he was at before to tell them his friend is dead because of their inaction. Rather than be alerted and urgent, they act more annoyed than anything else as they go with him to see the dead body. But when they arrive, the old man is simply gone, with only bloodstains left in his place. Thinking it as simply a prank, they shrug him off like everyone else before. He returns to the subway as the homeless population gets ready to sleep in the gated tunnels, showing how used to these conditions these people are in Seoul Station that they are storing blankets in wall advertisements. The simple man eventually finds his old friend in a nearby alleyway, dining on the flesh of a random person. Before the simple man can get any bearing on the reality of this situation, the patient zero of the old man attacks him rapidly. While the city of Seoul begins to sleep, the undertow of homelessness has allowed many people to be readily available to be the first among the infected to rapidly spread out. While the general population ignored them, their plights, their forced way of life and more, it allowed these human people to be susceptible and the most vulnerable to a zombie attack, to become a disease that would rapidly spread completely under the radar due to callousness and sheer disgust at their mere existence. While this is about it with the class divide and more so human disconnection based on these conditions, it's a pretty neat microcosm within the first fifth of the film that gives more weight to the outbreak that occurs and why it spreads so quickly. That has always been a thing with the zombie medium, to use the zombies to show some kind of thing in society. With this movie's connection to Train to Busan, we saw some of that with the homeless guy in Train to Busan, but with Seoul Station's title alone giving it that depth, with what used to be predominant homeless communities that would take up camp in Seoul Station. While general homelessness in the area has steadily declined each year since the release of this movie, it's still a call to how they are perceived and how the homeless are still a vulnerable population that can easily bubble into problems for society if they are not cared for or cared about in one way or another, escaping that fact or not. Beyond that, with the virus slowly but surely silently spreading, we then see Suk-kyu from earlier meeting up with Hye-sun's boyfriend, having made an escort request to lure him in and then confronting him about Hye-sun and revealing that he is her daddy. Two predominant men in her life lording over her and figuring out what to do with her as she walks the dark streets of Seoul alone, ignoring a call from her boyfriend as the first sounds of zombie attacks can be heard in the distance as they search for her. The young man tries justifying to his elder that even though he was starting to pimp her out, that it is all justified since he saved her life by giving her a home. She would have been dead if it wasn't for him. That does not fly with him. Then they arrive at their home to see her living space. But as the daddy stops to think about her life and where she may be, suddenly the apartment nearbys door breaks open with the man's neck bitten out. The landlord from earlier jumps on top of him, ravenously biting him before glaring at the dad. The woman that showed disdain at his son before was now a mindless, flesh-craving infected, and now trying to break into the very home she was about to kick his son out of before. Unaware of her feral state, the boyfriend opens up the door to her to get pinned down and see the infection face to face. I won't lie, the animation is a bit choppy and chopped, but it gets the job done, and honestly better emphasizes their transformation's physical traits, although I would have loved for it to connect to Train to Busan a bit more. How in the other movie, when the zombies reanimated, they would get more stilted in their movements and their body parts would snap like twigs, like they were stricken with rigor mortis. Here it just feels like they are veinier and bluer 28 days later infected. Regardless, Daddy beats the zombie landlord to death with a toilet cover, and as they catch their breath, her former victim walks by. Hye-sun continues her solitary stroll through the streets of Seoul at night, wandering past the homeless when the rumblings of festering zombie outbreaks are heard throughout the tunnels. Screaming, fighting, dying, turning. But again, any notions of all of this are disregarded as a man on the intercom makes an announcement telling the homeless to just calm down or the police are gonna have to be called. Just annoyed by the amount of noise they're making. That's when the shit hits the fan. A few homeless people are running away in a panic from the undead as one man gets jumped. Hye-sun is warned as she joins a group in fleeing. In a short time span, we now see the beginnings of this outbreak that eventually swallows all of South Korea whole. Gotta say, the chase sequence is pretty well done, catching our main character off guard with no hint of it for her until it already began. The choppy animation and more clear human features work kinda in their favor in this film. Their eyes very bulged out, contrasting with the whites of their unblinking peepers against the dark red of their blood-soaked faces. Veins way more prominent and the blank stare that would offer uncanny valley for regular humans but shines great on Seoul Station's version of the undead. It's kind of like how Pixar, when they were doing the first major 3D animated movie, elected to do toys so that the plastic look of 3D modeling at the time would blend well with the storytelling and characters. The same rules apply here. While for some humans it's a bit janky, like with Hye-sun, the boyfriend, and the dad, the zombies benefit from it pretty well, biting the ears off people, swarming in high action scenes, and close-ups for their jittery nature akin to how they jolted in snappy ways in Train to Busan. The group end up at a police station begging for help when, again, the police pay them no mind, noting their smell before anything else and then telling them to buzz off, until the horde floods at the glass doors and breaks through, killing one of the homeless and one of the officers. The group flee into a jail cell for safety as the zombies are snarling at them through the bars. Hye-sun then hyperfixates on the officer, noting his wound and being horrified at what appears to be a bite. With that honestly hilarious reaction of hers, it's obvious they know what zombies are and how shit can spread. So the police officer is a ticking time bomb, all while daddy and boyfriend are still cooped up in the bathroom together as the zombie is trying to break in. A really great way to set up the severity of this particular zombie type and giving a dash of that claustrophobic experience that Train to Busan offered before. Top Daddy takes the initiative to get out and climb to the roof while Twink Boyfriend sits there freaking out. The zombie breaking through as the boyfriend gets out and almost gets bitten. The contrast of the two men in her life being a stern hard-ass and a weak little bitch. With the undead populating the streets below, we really see these personality traits shine through. Daddy making a plan and slapping the boy to reality while the boy just snivels and cries. Daddy don't play that way and tells him he is going to be loud bait for him to get to his car and pick him up. Reasonable, as the tiny guy is probably faster and less easy to grab. Their main prerogative is to find Hye-sun despite her phone being turned off. As their plans get set in motion, we see the group in the jail cell. The policeman is frantically calling for backup from other precincts, assuming that the threat in front of them is just the homeless having gone crazy and or feral, with the homeless man standing right next to him simply pointing out to him, "Hey bro, I'm homeless. Do you see me trying to bite your ass?" Not being mad, just saying that he should not lump up the cannibalistic monsters in front of them with the homeless population. Pretty reasonable to say. And the policeman's response?
And so I pull out my gun. Woo!
I said that was it for the issues of homelessness, but it's pretty predominant in this film. And honestly, it's more a misunderstanding between people based on their living situations and more, assuming the worst of others. Even Hye-sun pleads with the officer that she is not a homeless, as if that's what they call zombies in this universe, the homeless. The officer looks at her feet and sees them bare and dirty, having lost her shoes in the chase from earlier. He automatically assumes that she is also a homeless, and he points his gun at her too, thinking she is trying to pull a fast one on him, dubbing all of them there the homeless, lesser humans, animals, monsters, and that he will not hesitate to kill every last one of them. It's ironic since he is the one harboring the virus boiling under his skin and eventually will be one of those feral monsters trying to break in. Twink does the demo version of Dying Light as he tries to parkour, jump roof to roof as slowly as possible before getting to street level with Daddy, following soon after. A fat dude drunk off his ass bumps into the Twink, somehow completely fine and not attacked from doing his drunk babble in the streets. He starts bitching at him as the zombies attack for some beer-soaked meat. Twink runs off into the night as 3 zombies take chase after him, and Daddy gets to the car and reminds me why I did zombie sins for all these years, leaving the car door wide open, struggling to turn the car on, and just leaving himself vulnerable to an attack. Either way, the plan works, and he gets the car. Twink somehow avoids being bitten by 2 zombies by pulling some uncharacteristic feats, and, lucky for him, the undead take their sweet time as Daddy pulls up to cream the schoolgirl. You know what? I can phrase that better. Genuinely, I like this movie, but to go from that intense chase scene with Hye-sun and the homeless guys to her Twink boyfriend having just 2 zombies constantly having to be hundreds of feet away with no pressure really took me out of it. It's actually kind of funny. Just having a lot of close-up of this bitch-ass running takes me out of how insanely broken these zombies are supposed to be, where he can just avoid them like he is playing freeze tag in a schoolyard. Back at the police station, the dead officer reanimates in front of everyone, showing them all how this all works, that even a non-homeless can be feral. Ironic. The infected cop starts panicking more as the scrawny homeless dude tries to yoink his gun. This causes the infected cop to get grabbed by the dead cop with him shooting his coworker in the head. The scrawny guy pins the cop down and knocks him out with some punches to the face as they resolve what to do with the only 2 bullets left that are in the pistol. The girl asks if he will hurt her if she hands over the gun to him, showing even when a zombie horde is a mere few feet away, she still thinks of the homeless guy as a threat, which is funny when we see the jail from above. They literally have both cops lying there, one dead, and the other either dead or KO'd. They saw and even said the other cop came back from the dead, and now you have one inside there with you and you paid no mind to him at all. The fat homeless guy going into hysterics, declaring that this is the end for all of them, not even trying to resolve the issues at hand, just breaking down mentally, feeling powerless, and just embracing death. The cop zombifies and stares at them. Again, no one doing a damn thing, even with a loaded gun in hand, hesitating to do anything as the zombie cop sinks its teeth into the saturated fat homeless man before then shooting, costing them a person's life, and justifying the fat guy's statements that this is the end and there was nothing he could do. He held no means to defend himself, but on the other hand, he did nothing to save himself, just sitting there, just chanting to himself with a doom poster mantra, trading a civilized dead person for a homeless undead, and causing more hesitation as he falls to the ground. A team of Riot police then arrive at the station, fully decked out in all that Riot gear as a stare down between the living and dead happens. How these Riot guys arrived there without running into any deadites that are apparently starting to flood the streets, I have not the foggiest. Kinda seemed surreal that they showed up ready to fight by the dozens, but had no idea that the zombie outbreak had long long begun. Maybe another commentary about being oblivious to the real issues at hand, especially considering the Riot police are electing to use shields and batons to subdue the undead, acting as if that would put a stop to the cannibalistic rampage that is definitely going down. They're just assuming it's just a bunch of homeless guys, and they're like, okay, we're used to doing this, we'll just bop them on the head a few times and put them in jail. It might be early during the pandemic, but still. Hyo-sun and the skinny homeless guy are able to use this as a distraction to sneak out the back door and get in an ambulance. Hyo-sun calls her boyfriend Twinkle Toes and tells him that they are heading to the hospital. While the destination is set, the skinny homeless guy panics at the idea of going to an ER, where apparently the paramedics have said that there are hundreds of cases of bite victims that are being sent there. A terrifying idea after you had seen what he had seen, and a neat concept for emergency services in a zombie film. We don't really get this perspective. You just know that hospital will be a biological war zone. In the homeless guy's state of shock and unable to communicate effectively with people, he tries to take the wheel of the car and causes the ambulance to crash. It's actually kind of sad if you put some thought to it, as the guy could have just plainly told them that the bites spread the infection. It's causing people to go feral if they were bitten. And so for them to go to a place of only bite victims would be extremely dangerous and basically a death sentence. Yet he can only speak in a disjointed mess and seem hysterical and crazy to the emergency service workers, something they may view him as already being and just rushing him off to get rid of him. They're used to homeless guys already talking in this manner, so they're not really paying any mind to his inane talking. The homeless man lumbering out to get away as Hyo-sun follows, unsure of who to go with, as the paramedic can only lie in the wreckage in pain, declaring the homeless as an asshole. Which, I mean, yeah, he is. The dude wrecked your work car and ditched your ass to go fuck off into the subway tunnels. He could have just said something to you, but instead he's like, nah bro. After ditching the people that helped them, they find themselves stuck underground trying to pry open a gate to pass through. A woman appears giving a stare just like the infected as she growls and moans in the exact same way the zombies did earlier with the boyfriend. You know what I'm talking about, the, hey, I'm running moderately fast at you, but not actually making much distance to build suspense. The homeless guy gets stuck under the grate because of his round belly, and I can already hear someone in the distance saying, if he's so homeless, then why he fat? Lots of reasons, Scott. Lots of reasons. The rabid woman stops to confront them. Both regular citizen and homeless alike had reasonably assumed she was one of the monsters based on her mannerisms. However, she is just very mentally ill, wildly swinging between moods, screaming at them for the noise they were making, asking them if they were dating, laughing about how this is all pointless because the world is bound for shit and we are all going to die anyways.
세상이 다 썩었는데 살아서 뭐 하겠어? 죽어! 다 죽어!
Proceeding to walk away when pleading with her mother to not leave her, even though no one's around. Genuinely sad, as this is the state for a lot of people in our world. Someone that has something untreated and that is only seen as some kind of monster. Someone with no one else and down a dark and depressing roller coaster of a mental spiral. And yet all we can think of them is being a mindless zombie that is a setup for a fake out punchline. I've had family like this, and it's all too real, especially the line about the mother and stating that there is no point. The woman is oblivious to the zombie outbreak and can be easily construed as one. It makes me think these moments of people completely unaware of the undead cannibals is to highlight different classes of people and how we can perceive their actions differently under the zombie movie microscope, as the original intent was with George A. Romero's works. They make their way through the subway system on foot as Daddy and Twink show up at the hospital per her instructions. Thanks to her being in those concrete tubes, they cannot call each other. The medical plaza is deathly silent, a calm before the storm. Not a soul around in the hospital of Seoul. He hears zombies gurgling and snags an IV pole and investigates, finding a room full of infected lumbering around. As much as I can praise this movie, it still suffers from the sins of 90% of zombie media, where people suddenly drop all survival instinct. Good on him for getting a weapon, but Daddy just sitting there gawking at the undead long enough to get spotted and then blindsided by a zombie from behind. Same for Twinkies, who yelps at the sight of a single infected that's outside and somehow the infected getting stuck on a seatbelt. It's just a long scene of it looking at the seatbelt, diving at him, looking at the seatbelt again, slowly backing up, and then getting ready to attack before being bludgeoned to death by Daddy. A lot of nothing suspense with characters just not reacting accordingly to what's going on. And hell, Daddy got away off screen from the hospital amidst what looked like the beginnings of a huge escape scene. A zombie had spotted him, and there was a horde just a few dozen feet away. But nah, all that setup meant nothing. Daddy slipped out unscathed and beat the zombie that was about to get a free sample. Not only that, but even after beating it up senselessly, the zombie just gets right back up like nothing happened. Like, yeah, I know it's a zombie, but at least it would be debilitated or something. When it comes to the commentary nature of the film, things kind of excel, or at least are above average. But the suspense and scenes with these two dudes just feel like filler. Back in the subway, his son confides in the homeless man, telling him of her plight, having racked up tons of debt and only ever meeting horrible people that put her in worse positions in life. That her dad and boyfriend are out there looking for her. The man simply says that they need to keep moving forward, not saying anything else or even looking at her until she mentions wanting to go home, causing him to stop on the literal tracks to break down in tears. The homeless man had paid her no mind during her spiel about her woes. Dude's probably heard way worse from other homeless people he has met. Dude might have gone through things equal or worse to what she has gone through, but he doesn't judge. He doesn't offer sentiments. He just wants to keep moving forward. That's all he can do. That's all he has ever done. But when thinking of just the idea of home, it causes him to shut down and say he has nowhere to go. No home for him to reside for such a long time. Basically saying even if he gets to safety, he has no place to call home. Unlike his son, who has people looking for her to take her both to safety and home. Despite this difference, they both stop on the railway to cry and wallow in misery. Their backstories may be different, but their struggles are now similar in a way and have led them down the same path, looking for a home that does not exist, away from the dangers of the world. A light amidst the tunnel offers hope to his son, but that is quickly snuffed out when she sees that it's only full of the undead clamoring to get at them through the thick glass. His son goes from blindly optimistic to devastated to in awe of the horrors before her. A young woman trying to get by on her path forward, while the homeless man doesn't even look over at these atrocities, not flinching at the horrors beyond human comprehension so close by. Death is just one broken glass away for them. The homeless guy just walking and telling her, and more, telling himself to go further. His son follows in his stead without a word. The fat homeless guy and crazy woman from earlier may have snapped from years of pressure that we had never seen, but their words can echo here, possibly being the end versions of our two characters here, believing that we are all dead anyways, just like the zombies that are through the looking glass not so far off. But these two keep moving, even if they are in a sedated-like state, trying to get beyond that breaking point. Daddy and Twink can't get a hold of her and go to a high bridge to scout the city, spotting tons of Riot police squaring up to take back the town, or at least make a perimeter to fend off anything that tries to get out. Hye-sun gets out of the subway and calls her BF. The conversation catches the attention of 2 zombies and then 4 more zombies before they find a survivor-made barricade. Daddy and Twink head to the station she was at as our 2 other characters walk through the temporary safe zone, seeing it blocked off by police buses and being hosed by Seoul police. The citizens of Seoul, despite being cornered by monsters, are simply treated the same as those very monsters and held off from progressing to safety and getting out of their horrible situation. Sounds familiar? No? People desperate for help, being sprayed like animals, feel too close to the non-existent home of our homeless man, as the act of seeing this finally causes him to snap and give up. He has hit his breaking point that he was trying to avoid, laughing at how hopeless it all is after making it all that way.
At times like this, I guess all you can do is laugh.
Saying it's all going to shit. The human spirit can only take so much, whether it being seen as trash on the street or a monster in the alley. When there's no hope after trying for so long and living through so much, it can only get some people so far before they are just destroyed. With the police setting up more of a perimeter to hold back this state of emergency, Daddy and Twink find themselves at an impasse, knowing where she is, but now with the worst roadblock imaginable, armed guards, trying to reason with the police to let them through. But now, just like the homeless before, they are brushed off like they are just simply hindrances, annoying pests that are buzzing around interfering with their jobs. Just like the simple man at the start of the movie threatening the businessman on the phone, who only looks on with annoyance at them with irritation while they are just trying to do their jobs. This is a job and not a matter of public safety. Even after Daddy attacks the lead police officer like a Left 4 Dead jockey, the guy still treats them like lower people, waving them off, talking casually, saying, hey, go away, head home and wait for all this to blow over, not treating this in any other way. The same being done to the people stuck inside the barricade. Officials announcing over loudspeakers that them being there, wanting to get to safety, are unlawfully gathering and should go home. Otherwise, repercussions will be made. In lieu of the fact that zombies have overtaken everything in that district, and there are no homes to go to. These people are now living the life of the homeless, begging for help and being told to go home without there being one to go to. Anyone that dares climb the barricade is high-pressure hosed down as if washing the filth and cleaning the streets of this street trash or potential biohazards. You might say that zombies are the great equalizer. In the midst of the growing chaos, one of the guys guarding the wall gets bit as they try to figure out what to do with him. Hye-sun's phone stops working. The Capitol Defense Command shows up armed with assault rifles, taking full control of the problem, as it's apparent how the government is looking to solve this growing problem. The crowd is quieted down by a balding man who states that because of his work for his country, either in high-profile business or government, he is above everyone there, referring to everyone there in the general public as useless trash, because he worked for the very entity that is trapping them in, that he alone deserves to live, and he's not like them. Crying out in dismay, just like the other homeless people we saw before who had nothing. The homeless man, hearing him say he deserves better for his life, goes over and confronts the rich dude, saying that just like him, that he has sacrificed for his country too, even more so, given his life and how he was forced to end up like how he is now. The circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant here. They are vastly different, but in the same way, they are one and the same because they are stuck here, unable to do anything. Yet, when faced with adversity, the rich guy breaks down demanding why he's being treated in this manner, while the homeless man, even after giving up, decides that he will not die there. He won't give up. He had already hit rock bottom, so he had gone through worse. The homeless and streetwalkers throughout were all callous or broken, and even more so, felt as if the world had gone to shit because that's all they knew. They didn't experience what the rich guy had gone through, where he had nothing but luxury up until this point. Like, nothing would get better, and death was the only way out. Like the analogy of the homeless guy walking on the tracks of the subway, he can simply climb his way up out of the corner he is in, only to see, once on top of the bus, the weight of the world, the military might of higher forces, a gun aimed squarely at him. There was nothing else he could do except to be gunned down off his ascension, to have even dared to think to climb out of the muck that he was in. Shot in the heart, lying on the ground, rapidly dying, with his last words being this.
애초에 도망갈 때가 있었으면 서울역에서 이러고 있지도 않았겠지.
Despite trying tirelessly to survive, to be knocked down every time he got up again, just to be killed for wanting to live. His last thoughts were that of if he had a home, somewhere to hang his cap, that he wouldn't be anywhere near the place he was now dead. Whatever reasons there were that led him to live in squalor there, everything seemed insurmountable in trying to crawl his way out of that space. No matter how long the walk or hard the climb, there was always a horde in the light, always an armed soldier, always a soothing light at the end of the tunnel, just being a freight train coming your way. Even when he tried, he failed, and ultimately, for trying, for better or worse, died. As his soul left the station of Seoul, the barricade on the other end of the safe zone became overwhelmed. 2 of the 3 guards died, and a swarm of hundreds of infected were closing in fast. The army began deploying tear gas on one end as the undead pincered on the other. Hye-sun follows the lead of a man that climbs up the rafters and across a wire to safety above. Hye-sun only knowing to follow in other men's leads, she gets halfway across as the people below are all converted to the dead side. Stuck between a rock and a hard place, she must muster any strength she has left to shimmy across while looking down and seeing imminent death below her. A momentary lapse causes her to lose her grip and have a zombie scratch her ankle pretty deeply, now infected with the zombie virus, hanging for dear life as she now dwindles between life and death. The man goes to help her and raise her hand, only for him to be grabbed and dragged down to be eaten alive. The one man at this point in her life that showed her any empathy is quickly slaughtered. Alone again, she must now evade infected at every turn, going through office hallways, rooftops, and construction sites perilously, falling great heights as the dead narrowly miss grabbing her, passing out from her last fall to an abandoned but nice-looking model apartment, seeing a very well-made presentation of high-end but high-cost living in Seoul, a glimpse of what could be. As the sickness slowly embeds itself throughout her body, she gets in contact with her boyfriend to her location. After facing the adversities of the undead, the fearful masses, the slowly encroaching response of Korean forces, after wanting nothing more than to escape her life as a former prostitute and living paycheck to paycheck, not knowing if she would have a home tomorrow, she finally gets a taste of what a good life could be, resting her head in a nice room with a beautiful, albeit artificial, beautiful view of Seoul. She then rests her head on the desk. This life she wanted will always be out of reach. A facade, an unachievable goal. Just like the homeless man that was always moving ahead but ended up dead, she just wanted a home. Slipping into a restful nap before her boyfriend woke her up. A tearful reunion as he states they can go home. A brief respite where she thinks she can go to that normal life she has wanted for so long. Before he says her father is now walking in the door. Spotting the man, she says with a quivered voice of dread that that man standing there is not her father. There's a reason I kept calling this guy Daddy. It wasn't to be funny like my usual shtick of just calling people by a nickname that seems kind of, funny. It was not for comedic effect. The man was her former pimp, and he was coming to collect her all this time. Thinking her former life of her parental figure was looking to save her was nothing more than her former life of her career in escorting pursuing her for money and ass. Everything crumbled down before her, like waking up to a dream that crashed into a nightmare. While the twink sought to pimp her out in the beginning, in the end, he simply wanted to take her home and to bring her to safety, as he promised her in the beginning before resorting to what he did. While her actual former pimp wanted to take her back to her life of prostitution to rectify the money she owed him. These were the debts she owed that she mentioned to the homeless man. Both of the important men in her life fight, with Daddy curb stomping her boyfriend Ki Wong. She pleads with her pimp that she just wants to go home, trying to bargain for his life. The pimp agrees with her, but only after she pays what she owes to him, forcefully harming her to get that point across. An all too real reality for those in that line of work. Ki Wong gets up and grabs a kitchen knife, attempting to kill the pimp and save his woman, but he fails, and instead has his throat slit. His son can only watch knowing he was dead. Just like the man on the wire earlier, the only time she is shown humility and bravery for a man to stand up for her and take her home or save her, those men are all quickly killed, with her being able to do nothing about it. That any attempts at trying to do better in her life would be met with heavy resistance or complete nullification, with those caring about her dying soon after. Alone, she runs off to hide in an extravagant model apartment next door, her pimp slowly seeking her out throughout as he states how amazing this place is, how he could have had that life if she didn't screw him over, how even scumbags like him are always looking for a better home, even at the expense of others, blaming her for his situation and only being able to find her because of her dirty footprints on the immaculate clean floors of the model apartments, giving it away that she did not belong there, and even her mere steps were filth that gave her away, the very same dirty feet that the policemen at the station used to label her as a violent homeless person. She was no better than them, and well, to many, she was. Because of everyone around her treating her the way she did, she never truly had a place to call home. The pimp even laughs in her face about this fact, saying he sought out her true father looking to collect on the debt she accrued. Her father asked for a week to gather the funds necessary to pay him off. But after that week had passed, the pimp said he went to his home and saw that the father had fled the city, abandoning her and any way of assisting her, ending it with this statement. She attempts to attack him with a statue of the Virgin Mary, but her attempt and the statue fall to the ground flat. Innocence lost. As he drags her into the bedroom he says he wished he could have banged in, sprawling her out and preparing to do unspeakable things to her. Lying in the bed of a home she could never have, the last moments on this earth were spent with a man that saw her as nothing more than a commodity, not a person, about to commit the act she hated so much, and with no hope left on this world, she could only shed a singular tear. She was gone. Now that she was dead, her pimp mourned her loss, desperately trying to bring her back from the dead, almost like he was trying to save her life because he cared for the person she was. But it was only because she still owed him that he showed any remorse, her life never having meant anything to him, just a loss in product. As he looks up, he sees she has turned a feral, teeth-clattering zombie, while other undead throughout the movie have had more of a lifeless, open-eyed stare to them. His son's dead Sona is visibly angry. Her eyebrows are angled in such an evil manner, almost hate-filled. She immediately attacks her pimp, pinning him to the ground as the light turns green and the story ends. In death, she got her revenge, but in life, she could never achieve what she always wanted. A home. Both dying in the home they always wanted, losing themselves. Ki Wong, a dead body, having never experienced the infection because of the heroism he displayed in his final moments. The army is shown failing to fight back against the onslaught of the zombie army. Never hope there to begin with, as a new dawn emerges, a dawn of the dead. And that was the brief but saddening story of a girl, nay, a population that just wanted a place to call home.